Hello, 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 and welcome to another fantastic episode of Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable discussion. Before we get started, let me first remind you that we are covered by the BIPCOT no-government license, which allows for the use and reuse of this podcast by anyone and everyone except for governments and the bludgies thereof. You can learn more about that at bipcot.org. That is bipcot.org. We're also protected by Brandenburg v. Ohio, 1969, which ruled that the government cannot punish inflammatory speech unless that speech is, quote, directed to inciting or producing imminent lawless action and is likely to incite or produce such action. Therefore, everything we say here on Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable discussion is entirely-ish hypothetical. Yeah. On that note, this is episode 10. What did I say? 106? 106? 105?
107.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'll figure it out later when I go through my notes.
The most professional podcast on the internet today.
It's episode something over 100.
It's over 100. It's not yet 110.
There we go.
Sounds good.
Good enough for government work.
It's 10 something. It doesn't matter. So.
You know you're a professional when you're like, it's episode 100.
It's episode 1, and then somebody coughs.
Anyway, so as I was saying.
Yeah, we are Derica-less tonight. It is our favorite Fed's birthday. That would be Derica's husband if you guys don't listen to the earlier episodes. He's the only Fed that we trust, and that's because we have to, because he's Derica's husband. So it's just me and the boys tonight, having a little fun. There'll be a few laughs. We'll get Andrew cussing. Maybe we'll get him doing a little rant.
I don't rant. I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. We're going to talk about an elderly New Jersey lady that almost lost her house over 6-cent delinquent property tax.
Yeah, that one will probably make me rant. I'll give you that.
85% chance Andrew goes on a massive rant on that one.
No, we have. There's another one. I dropped it in the notes. I don't know if anybody read it, but it involves one of Dan's favorite people, one of Andrew's favorite people, Dan Crenshaw.
That traitorous fuck. Traitorous fuck.
You want to just jump into that one since I made you angry, or do you want to push that off?
Let's start with that one.
Let it boil over right away, and then maybe he can calm down as we go on.
All right, let's jump into that one right away. This is I saw this one this morning, and I had to do like a double take. No, okay, I did like a triple take, and then I had to Google it, and I had to look at it and figure it all out. And all right, I'm just gonna go read the article because this is from Business Insider. It is called the title is "A Patriotic Bipartisan Presidential Ticket Determined by the Coin Flip Demands to be Taken Seriously."
Because that sounds like something that you would totally take seriously, is a ticket that was determined by a coin flip.
It's so good. All right. It's hard out here for a third-party presidential ticket. To gain ballot access in all 50 states, third parties struggle for years. The lesser-known parties launched nationwide grassroots efforts to collect signatures, file paperwork, and clear innumerable bureaucratic roadblocks. In many cases, a bid also requires reaching a vote percent threshold in a down-ballot election for the national party's presidential candidate to stand a chance of making it onto the ballot. Even then, candidates are hampered by minuscule name recognition, left out of most national polling, and locked out of the presidential debates. It's a rigged game.
This is my shocked face.
Everything so far, I 100% agree with, right?
Yep.
I feel like that weird little white thing that doing the arms out in front. What?
Right? Like you're totally on par. You're going along. Sounds fantastic.
Yep.
Right? This is what we agree with.
Spot on so far.
As of now, the Libertarian and Green parties are the only third parties that regularly gain widespread ballot access.
Widespread being used loosely.
Libertarians are on ballots in all 50 states. The Greens are on 45 states. But both parties are routinely dismissed as a, quote, waste of a vote. Right? Nothing controversy there.
Nope.
All in all, it's a massive undertaking to make a difference as a third party in the U.S. So it's intriguing when a new alternative to the Democrat and Republican stranglehold tries to make some noise. I had to laugh also, yes. All right.
These people are totally not part of that. Nope.
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 All right. It gets better.
That's what scares me. Whenever you say that, that scares me.
There's more.
The latest attempt to enter the fray, Unity 2020, wants to be taken seriously as a patriotic movement that stands as the last hope to, quote, save the republic from the disaster that looms on our current path.
Vote Caesar.
Oh.
I votes on Giant Meteor. I'm just saying, Giant Meteor of Yellowstone.
Yeah. And okay, for the record, before seeing this article this morning, I had never heard of Unity 2020. Right? Have you guys heard of it?
No.
Nope.
Okay. It's making some noise thanks to a prominent internet presence. But the massive hole in its plan, to say nothing of its logic that seems unmoored from political reality, have led at least one critic from a third party to call it, quote, snake oil.
Gosh, I am just shocked.
Unity 2020 is a brainchild of former Evergreen State College professor Brent Weinstein, who, as a charter member of the intellectual dark web, who is probably best known for being the target of a student-led mob on campus in 2017. You guys remember that, Evergreen College up in Washington?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy wouldn't cow to the cancel culture, and they literally went after him. Okay, Unity 2020 isn't a party. It's, quote, a grassroots presidential campaign to restore patriotic, courageous, and capable leadership to the United States, according to its website. Andrew's about to lose it. Fundamental to the Unity 2020 ethos is the belief that the country faces certain doom if either President Donald Trump or Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden wins the election in November. The idea then is that a, quote, patriotic bipartisan ticket can save the day. Weinstein told me Unity 2020 has about 1,000 volunteers and has issued fundraising to preemptively cut off any accusations of financial grifting. Such a small and impoverished operation stands little chance of even making a much electoral impact as the presidential third-party candidate Rocky De La Fuente. But the movement is generating noise because of IDW's broad audience reach online. IDW, again, is intellectual dark web. Because of the intellectual dark web's broad audience reach online.
Broad. Okay.
Weinstein in June unveiled the, quote, Articles of Unity on Tucker Carlson's Fox News show, which this summer broke the record for being the highest ranked cable news show in history. Yeah, in addition to his YouTube channel with 220,000 subscribers, Weinstein also recently made one of several appearances on the Joe Rogan Experience, one of the most popular YouTube shows and podcasts.
Yeah, the one that everyone wants to try and get canceled because
the interview with Rogan, a fellow IDWer, has been viewed more than 6.5 million times. And that's just on YouTube, which doesn't account for the millions of audio-only downloads and streams Rogan gets with every episode.
not only did they try to cancel him, but he's also the guy that so many on the right are seriously trying to get to moderate a fourth debate.
I would love a live Joe Rogan host.
I would watch that one. Yes,
It's
I would
like
absolutely
Biden
watch
says
that
something completely off the rails, and he's like, "Cool, bro, but have you ever tried DMT?"
As Biden goes, "Yes, I'm currently on it."
Yeah, I literally took some before I came on. I'm told it's what the kids are doing.
Carlson and Rogan's audiences are massive and loyal. While it may not have reached the quote mainstream, it's clear that Weinstein is leveraging his network to spread Unity 2020's message to a large audience. So what's his message? The quote articles of Unity published on Unity 2020's website shows a passion for shaking up the establishment, uprooting the stained two-party system and moving toward democratic incentives like ranked voting as a way of juicing more ideological diversity into politics while chiseling away at the two-party tribal hackery.
I could be wrong, Dan, but I believe that the term unity refers to, or diversity refers to an old wooden ship from the Civil War era.
Hey, no one ever changed the world by thinking pragmatically. And judging by its many varies in the nitty-gritty of its plan, neither has Unity 2020.
This is just...
Hold on. While Unity 2020 has grand ideas, the organizers have a few practical problems. They have no ballot access in less than 50 days before the general election, which is constitutionally required to take place on November 3rd. They have volunteers, but very little organized infrastructure. And the two candidates they've picked haven't agreed to run on their ticket and have already endorsed the respective party standard bearers.
This will totally work, though, guys. We'll just make them do it. We can't get anybody to even get the choice to pick them, and no one has ever heard of them. But, and they also maybe haven't agreed to actually be our candidates. But I have a strong belief, and therefore, just like, what is their campaign manager, a fucking leprechaun? What the?
I mean,
also,
Gabbard at least was part of the presidential race for on the Democrat side, so she'd probably sign on.
Also, a coin flip will determine whether Democrat or Republican serves as president or vice president, and the order of the ticket will be reversed every 4 years.
Oh, good Lord!
Retarded.
Hold
on. We've tried this. We tried this as a country. Remember, under the Articles of Confederation, where and actually, wasn't it under the Constitution initially too, where the runner up became vice president, and it never worked.
Yep.
Supporters submitted over 2,000 candidate nominations, according to Weinstein, and the top 6 were voted on via ranked online ballots. 8 rounds of online voting with 7,919 votes in all ultimately yielded 2 sitting members of Congress, as well as military veterans, as Unity 2020's presidential ticket. Republican Representative Dan Crenshaw and Democratic Representative Tulsi Gabbard. I do not see those two getting along at all.
Well, one, I don't... Fuck Crenshaw. That motherfucker.
Yeah, I'm on
Oh. He's just such a piece of shit.
Yeah, Crenshaw was a featured speaker at last month's Republican National Convention, where he endorsed Trump. Gabbard ran for the Democratic nomination this year, finishing with a grand total of 2 delegates, and has the dubious honor of being the presidential candidate most disliked by Democratic primary voters. Upon dropping out of the race, she endorsed Biden.
So they have Pirate McGlory Hound, the traitorous wretch, and fucking Gabbard.
Yeah. I asked Winston in a phone interview last week how a dyed-in-the-wool Trump-supported conservative and a renegade Democrat would appeal to moderates, centrists, and independents. quote, this ticket isn't moderate. This ticket is patriotic. And what makes the ticket viable is that both of these people are intelligent. They're clearly willing to make sacrifices on behalf of the nation, and they both clearly have courage.
I want to point out that Andrew right now sounds like the Martians from Mars Attacks.
It's just, oh my god! What reality do these people live in?
Andrew, it gets better.
Oh shit!
They're fucking flag, because you got the elephant, you got the jackass, you have the porcupine, and apparently this one you have the fucking unicorn.
Unity 2020 was designed to draw voters, quote, equally from two major parties. Both the but the two candidates selected may have some problems bridging the gap. Gabbard's unpopularity within her own party, Weinstein said, comes in no small part from, quote, an absolutely bizarre attack from the DNC, with Hillary Clinton accusing her, of all things, of being a Russian asset. Weinstein added, quote, as somebody who grew up during the Cold War, seeing that kind of rhetoric deployed domestically in a political context against an obvious patriot is jaw-dropping.
An obvious.
Regarding Crenshaw, Weinstein said, quote, he is a loyal Republican, but I have also spent a fair amount of time talking to Dan, and I find him interpersonally very reasonable. Dan, I would argue, is a person I have long hypothesized exists, which is to say someone who functions well within the current system, but would prefer that system did not have this partisan feature.
No, he'd prefer that he was just in charge, absolutely, and was der Fuhrer. If you ever talked to Crenshaw, is the worst kind of that.
Didn't he come out?
Worst.
Didn't he come out against civilian ownership of AR-15? Oh no, that was.
Yes, yeah, he's anti-gun.
Yeah, he's anti-gun. He's very much so pro red flag laws.
That's right. That was the red flag laws. That's right.
And he is from the group within special operations that I despise. He is a SEAL.
So kind of like the guy
suntan and book deals, that kind of
guy. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's a lot
like the guy running for Ron Kind's seat here in Wisconsin. Same thing. Yep. He's a SEAL. I've talked to him on the phone. He's got that exact same bullshit swagger to him when you talk to him that you see Crenshaw swinging around when he's on doing media shit.
Dude, and when I met fucking Chris Collins, gonna rustle a lot of fucking feathers. When I met him, he had the exact same kind of fucking bullshit going on. I'm fucking amazing. I'm awesome. Everybody should do everything I say. I know what I'm doing. Yep. And the thing is that the SEALs don't do half of what people think they do. They are the convenient scapegoat.
Yeah.
They're the ones where when all the people who actually do things, but no one can know that we did them, we give them the credit.
All right, for accuracy's sake, tell people what you did.
So I was special forces. I was a Green Beret. I was also a Ranger, and I did a little bit of contract work here and there. So
just a few highlights.
I did contract work in a little bit in Africa. I did a little bit in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in other places that I totally wasn't. But I took contracts those places too. But like when we had to do things that no one is supposed to know that we're there, that we're doing this, that this was a thing that we did, and if you're in a unit that no one is even supposed to know does anything and exists. All of those guys hand off credit to the SEALs. They don't actually do this shit. They just get the fucking credit. When fucking Delta gets deployed places, everyone just hands everything to the fucking SEAls. Even though Delta's the worst kept secret.
And how many times did you die in the helicopter?
Well, on the bird, my heart stopped once. My heart stopped before the bird landed. It stopped once on the bird, and it stopped once in the hospital.
Okay, so you died 3 times after. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Just for accuracy's sake, people, Andrew know what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah. Fuck the SEALs so fucking hard. Those fucking glory hounds. You do this shit, and then they write books about it, and they make movies, and then
they killed Bin Laden.
Yeah, the dude that supposedly killed Bin Laden. That's what I was gonna say. Is the dude who supposedly killed Bin Laden, and then he writes an unauthorized book, and then gets in trouble, and it's nothing but a fucking wrist slap, and they go, "Don't do that again." And you expect me to believe that that's actually what you did? That you're the guy? That it was you? You really want me to believe that? Come on, you fucking.
All right, back to the article. Weinstein sees no evidence of patriotism in Trump or Biden, calling the president, quote, an entirely cynical actor who does what is necessary to advance his own cause, and describing Biden as, quote, a lifelong machine politician who has run his campaign in decrepit conditions. Well, I agree with that statement.
Yeah, that's not an inaccurate description of Biden.
Yeah. All right. This is he's talking about patriotism, right? That's Unity 2020. This is a patriotism-based political party.
Fucking patriotism.
Right. This is where I think I think one of you guys might explode on this one. A self-described radical progressive, Weinstein said economic inequality, growing past a certain point, tends to trigger revolts. But he added, quote, to focus on race on the BLM left is going to drive the entire nation to a place that it has been in the past, where race was a primary feature of how we viewed each other. And nobody who understands the United States knows that moving in that direction will be negative and not positive. Yeah, it's not just the forces of political duopoly that Weinstein is fighting. It's what he sees as the political bias in big tech.
It's about patriotism, guys. Seriously. This doesn't at all, I promise this doesn't at all sound like some sort of fascist takeover.
No. Never.
And then it's like 4 paragraphs about them complaining about being banned from Twitter. And then it goes, odds are stacked against them, no ballot access, blah 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 blah. And then he goes on to Weinstein has a plan for that too. Third parties, particularly the Libertarian and Green parties, should hand over their ballot access to the Unity 2020 out of a sense of patriotism. Quote, Libertarians and the Greens have achieved something very difficult. They have gained national ballot access. However, their role in American politics is effectively a footnote. But with the intent of making the point now, at this moment in history, neither one is positioned to win. It is almost impossible to imagine Howie Hawkins or Joe Jurgensen ascending to the presidency.
You did all the work, and now it's time for you to hand it all over to us.
Out of a sense of your patriotic fucking duty.
And then when Weinstein added, quote, I have put my ideology aside, and all of my other volunteers inside of Unities have put their ideologies aside in order to advance the plan for the good of the nation. The Libertarians and or Greens could do the same thing at this moment.
And then all the people clapped.
Yeah. Right.
What this reminds me of is that what's his face, that kid from that Florida shooting. What was his name? That annoying little shit. The I got on my bicycle kid.
Oh, the David Hogg.
Yeah, with his little like Nazi salute thing.
Yeah.
That like he clearly hoped would be some sort of an iconic photo eventually, but obviously everyone just went, gosh, that looks kind of like a Nazi salute.
Yeah.
It's okay. Totally not fascistic.
Yeah, that's right.
Quote, and that's the thing. That's the funny thing, though, is that if you are familiar with when the Nazis began taking power in the Weimar Republic, that what they would do is they were making these alliances with these other parties and then demanding that the other parties basically just vote the way that they told them to vote.
Right.
So that they effectively seized it. And this is exactly the same, because the Nazis were a minority. And this is the same thing that this guy is proposing, almost like he's like, did you just like flip through Mein Kampf and the history of the the rise and fall of the Nazi Empire, and you were just like, oh, this seems like a good idea? Like,
it worked for Hitler. I mean,
yeah, I mean, well, for a little bit,
right?
Yeah, and then there's like 10 paragraphs of the Libertarians and the Green Party tearing them apart and complaining about Unity 2020, blah 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 blah.
A lot of TLDR, but
yeah, a lot of TLDR.
Pretty much. The Libertarians basically said that their ambitions are fucking, or they're absolute fucking morons.
Yeah, called it absolute fucking moron. And Sarwalk called them absolute fucking morons. And coming from that guy, that's a serious insult.
Yeah, like if even he notices that you're dumb, Jesus.
And it looks like the Greens have a very similar perspective.
Yeah, the Greens have a very similar. And then going down, it says O'Neill, he's the Green Party guy. He says, what people need to understand about creating actual democratic political parties is that they have to be accountable to their membership. They need to be transparent, and they aren't built in a day. Weinstein doesn't buy these arguments and says it's defeatist to believe it is too late in the process to run a Crenshaw-Gabbard or Gabbard-Crenshaw ticket and win. Quote, instead of as spoilers, third parties would be understood as heroes putting aside their interest for the moment to save a republic that many people seem to understand is in jeopardy. It's the right thing to do, the honorable thing to do, and is also the strategically savvy thing to do.
Dude, where do you get your pot?
Right?
What? Western Washington. They know, or Western Washington. They know how to grow it.
Apparently, Jesus.
So essentially, what he's telling them to do is all of this grassroots crap that the Greens and the Libertarians have been trying to push for what? Honestly, about a decade and a half, roughly.
Well, more than that. I mean, the Green Party's been around for.
Libertarian Party's been around since what, 71?
They've been around, but they haven't really garnered any attention until, I would say,
even Gary Johnson got what, like 5%, or something like that, like a million votes or something like that.
Even who was Aleppo managed it,
right? But I mean, from a realistic standpoint, this is what he's asking these people to do. All this work that they've put in, he just wants them to throw it away.
No. He wants them to martyr, to sacrifice.
He wants them to fall on their swords.
So that his people, his party, so that his idea and his ideology could enter.
You must sacrifice yourselves for me patriotically.
And here's why I talk about that is because he essentially wants these parties to throw away or martyr themselves, throw away all their hard work in exchange for somebody worse than Trump.
In some ways worse than Trump, yeah.
In some ways far worse than Trump, and somebody who was so ungodly unpopular, who did try to run for president and literally shot herself in the foot.
She was literally the only in all the parties, or in the two-party system, the Democrat and Republicans, she was the only one that was an actual anti-war candidate.
Right. Yeah. And he wants her to run alongside Crenshaw.
Right. That's essentially what I'm getting at here.
Like, what?
Them two beat out Andrew Yang in the votes. Just
oh,
Patriot Unity 2020, Andrew Yang, UBI.
Yeah, see, they need a vice president on that ticket who is Andrew Yang, to really just round it out. Like, a promise that Yang will be Secretary of State. Like,
we could just draw names out of the hat for the cabinet.
It's just like that will ever.
We'll have a lottery for Secretary of Defense.
Wasn't there a culture that did that? I want to say there's a culture that randomly selected. Was that Greece? Was that like Athens that did that? Maybe. Where they would just randomly select citizens, where everyone just had to like take turns being in charge of government. I can't remember who that was where that was the case, where like you got randomly selected, like you were the person that had to represent whatever area, whether you wanted to or not, it was you. And like that's like the approach that they're taking. And as you'll recall, there's no longer an Athens. That should tell you something. That doesn't work. Even if you believe that government could function.
Yeah, ancient Athens. This is Lombardy and Venice tried it. Florence tried it. Switzerland at one point, and India.
Okay, I was right. It was Athens. See, my history degree pays off yet again. I know things. I can't make any money with it, but man, if it doesn't occasionally help out with trivia. Totally worth the $40,000.
If history ever comes up in the barroom trivia, you're all about it.
Yeah, I am the go-to man. Absolutely worth it. I will win you those free wings. God damn it. But like, it didn't work for them either. Like, it was constantly, their government was constantly deadlocked all the time, and it just, even if you thought the government played an important role and was useful and anything, that is like the worst possible way to do it.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna have a government, like if there's no other option than to not have a government, so if we have to have one, the person that I want in office is the person that has to be dragged there kicking and screaming because they don't want to be there. Like right. Anybody that wants to be there, no. Anybody that wants someone else to be there, you're automatically disqualified.
Yeah, well, what was it that Frank Herbert said? It isn't just that power corrupts; it's that power inherently attracts the corruptible.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, it's the people who are running, the people who go after government positions, the people who want to be senators, like the two people that he's trying to pick for patriotism. they are the ones who you do not want in charge of things because they're like power. It's the Whitest Kids You Know. If you ever watched Whitest Kids You Know, friggin' hilarious. But they did their political thing with the guy who was just like, I have led such a bland and uneventful life as to seem unnatural. I joined the military for the minimum amount of time in a position that would never see combat because I've been preparing to be your senator. I have a pretty yet accessible wife and a newborn baby who I've dressed in a suit. It's the perfect, if you haven't seen it, it's the perfect political commercial. It is just dead on. They also did one with the guy who is just like, I want to be your senator. He's going on. He's like, I would even, man, I don't stand for anything unless it's popular. I would even change my name to, he says something, or Philip, my mouth with farts. I thought it would get me elected.
And to be perfectly honest, if a political candidate came out with an ad like that, they would probably win just because they're being honest.
Yeah, at least they're honest.
Well, that's, to be fair, that's literally what Derica said last week about Aria Damasio for sheriff.
Yeah, that she's just like completely honest about it. Like, I don't even want to do this. You're all idiots, and I don't care. And
have you seen how popular she is right now?
I haven't, but I'm sure it's extreme.
Like, newspapers all over, entertainment sites all over. Like, she made Consequences of Sound Like, Consequences of Sound, like the heavy metal website did an article on her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh.
That's actually really impressive.
Oh, and now she teamed up with a restaurant there in Keene. Faux King Good. It's a faux restaurant, Asian restaurant. And they're suing over the mask mandate.
Nice. Yeah, that's. I mean, that's the thing is, like, if there was anybody that you would want in charge of things, it's somebody who was just like, fuck everything, fuck all of this. This is stupid. I don't need to tell you how to live. This is dumb. You need to stop. And instead, what we get is people like this who go, oh, but if we just have unicorns and rainbows and special fairies, and then we can pick two people who didn't even ask to be on our ballot and haven't actually agreed at all and probably never will. If we just pick them. And then also all these other people give up all of the political clout that they've spent a lifetime building. If we just do all of that in the name of patriotism and the greater good, then maybe, just maybe,
this is the worst D&D campaign ever.
Yeah, it's freaking ridiculous. Somebody fire this DM. He is terrible.
Roll for initiative. 2.
Wait a minute, this is a 4-sided die. What the hell?
Got one of those big 100-sided die. 3.
Yeah.
Stack the odds in your favor. Still get a 3. Yeah. I had to bring that up because of laughs. There's some good quotes in there, but.
Oh my god. Well, and like of all the people, like, and of all the ideals, first of all, if you're the misguided and incredibly dangerous idea of patriotism is something you're going for, Crenshaw does make sense. Because that's exactly what he's all about.
If you have a fucked up, manipulated idea of patriotism.
Well, I don't think there's such a thing as patriotism that isn't in the common vernacular. I don't think there is a.
Can you have patriotism without nationalism? No.
Well, no, and certainly not in the present usage of the word.
Yeah.
Right.
What the word might have meant in, say, the 19th century, 18th century, that was slightly different, and that, you could have the one without the other and be a patriot before the ideals that you stand for, and you're patriotic in that idea, but you can't have the one without the other. And, it's the love and marriage, horse and carriage, you know what I mean? So, like, it's the way it is. But, like, if I was going to pick somebody that I was like, yes, I want them to be so hardcore, like, nationalist and for the greater good of the country and the people and, kind of sound a lot like Hitler, I would absolutely pick Dan Crenshaw.
He's on the short list.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's all about, man. He's all about this greater good bullshit and everything else, and about patriotism.
This would be assuming he wins the coin flip and gets to be president.
Yes.
Right, otherwise he's vice president.
Otherwise he's vice president, right?
Because as we all know,
in that case, we get Tulsi Gabbard instead.
Yeah, the chick that like made all of these anarchists show their true colors.
Oh, they were simping so hard for Tulsi.
Yeah, and it's like, no. Oh, well, I mean, I'm an anarchist, but nah. The moment you get to that but, that's like, I'm pro-gun, but no.
Oh,
you lost me right there with the but.
Yeah, the moment you hit that word, you've negated everything that came before it. I'm pro-Second Amendment, but...
All right.
So you're not, then.
All right, since we're on the subject of butt and Democrats scuttle marijuana decriminalization vote over fears of not being differential enough to cop lobbyists.
It's so great. Like when I posted this on Facebook, I was like, so I just want to recoup here that the DNC that everyone keeps touting, at least within the DNC, as being so pro personal freedom when it comes to drugs, and so reform of the police and everything else. They refused to push marijuana decriminalization because they're worried about how the cops would feel about it, while also putting forward the architect of the crime omnibus bill and a corrupt prosecutor who knowingly manipulated evidence to throw innocent people in prison for drug charges.
Yes. Yes. This is an article from Reason. Democrats scuttle marijuana decriminalization vote over fears of not being differential enough to cop lobbyists. Okay. Whew.
As we all know, freedom is about deferring to cop lobbyists.
Yeah. A planned House vote on a bill to decriminalize the possession of marijuana was canceled on Thursday under pressure from law enforcement lobbyists and other pro-prohibition special interests. The expected floor vote on the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, that is the MORE Act, would have been the biggest accomplishment yet for cannabis reforms, but that effort has been postponed until Election Day, Political reports. Democrats have gotten weak-kneed about the bill that they once saw as a major criminal justice reform. Instead, it's a what would have been. The MORE Act, sponsored by Representative Jerry Nader, Democrat out of New York, would remove cannabis from the Schedule of Controlled Substances Act and make that change retroactive, effectively expunging any federal marijuana offenses and convictions. The bill also ordered federal courts to lift all sentences from people currently locked up due to marijuana convictions. As reasons Jacob Schulman explained when the bill was introduced last year, the MORE Act was in many ways superior to other marijuana legalization or other marijuana legislation because, quote, it completely deschedules marijuana rather than moving it to a lower schedule or making exemptions to the ban for state legal conduct. And it seeks to lift the burdens that prohibition has imposed on people caught growing, distributing, and possessing cannabis, a vital project that too often has been treated as an afterthought. This year, the bill had collected more than 100 co-sponsors in the House and even had support from 3 Republicans, and appeared on track to pass the lower chamber. Even though the bill was expected to die in the Senate, the House vote would have been historic. Unfortunately, cop lobbyists seem to have convinced House Democrats that it would also have been a liability. A coalition of law enforcement special interests and other proponents of the drug war sent a letter to congressional leaders last week warning about a potential dangers associated with legalization and, quote, commercializing marijuana.
Well, of course, that threatens to greatly hamper their ability to quote unquote, civilly forfeit or cause people to forfeit their assets in the name of I smell weed.
And it curtails, as we saw in Colorado, it curtails their budgets because now they don't have the excuse of busting people on marijuana. And that's the thing, is that you should keep in mind, cops aren't supposed to, according to the cops, be in business of writing laws. Their job is to enforce them. What incentive could police possibly have to discourage the legalization of something if their function is to solely enforce laws? If, well, I don't write the laws, I just enforce them. What could their motivation possibly be if not in the name of budget?
Yep. That combined with vague fears about how Republicans might weaponize the legislation vote for negative ads in swing districts was apparently enough to convince Democrats to scuttle the vote. This isn't just disappointing, it's pretty pathetic. Democrats were right to position the MORE Act as a vehicle for racial justice and a key step towards addressing the problems of America's criminal justice system. The war on drugs is deliberately racist and has always been, which is true. Joe Biden's Omnibus Bill Act, there was a disparity between the punishment for cocaine and the punishment for crack, right? Which is the same drug in different formats. And because like crack was like a quote urban inner city drug, cocaine was a upper white class drug. That was part of the omnibus bill, but okay.
One's awesome and one's just sad.
Yeah. Decriminalizing marijuana would be a pretty good first step towards righting those wrongs. But even after everything that happened this summer to put criminal justice in the foreground and the national conversation, and even with the polls showing that most Americans and a larger share of Democrats support the legalization of marijuana, Democrat leaders were still too spooked to take an important and historical vote. Yeah, if police interests find it this easy to shut down marijuana reform, which doesn't even really affect the way cops do their jobs, aside from removing one of the excuses they might use to stop, search, and seize an innocent person's stuff, how can House Democrats talking about passing police reforms with a straight face?
Yeah, they never will.
Right, no. And that's spot on.
It's funny we talk about the DNC, we talk about the Democrats and the police reforms, defund the police, blah blah blah. No Democratic leaders have really called for that. Like AOC and a couple of the people like that don't really matter have called for that. But like Pelosi and the other people in the upper ups are like, nah. No, that's not gonna happen.
They don't want to do that because if they do, then they're losing their enforcement arm. Right. When they finally come back to power. Well, they need everybody to be there because they need that cudgel with which to beat everybody with.
They are frightened of it, and again, this is where being a student of history makes things very alarming versus somebody who doesn't know as much. What you see throughout history is that when enforcers get lots and lots and lots of power, right? Where you have militarized police and things. And it's not like America is the first country to have militarized police. I mean, that traditionally the military was the police for most countries. They were one and the same. As that dynamic changes where people who are really accountable to the people, or at least ostensibly accountable to the people, and people who aren't, the enforcement arm, once the enforcement arm starts to gain that power away from anybody who might be accountable, the people who are accountable stop being afraid of the voters. They stop being afraid of what the people think, and they're more worried about coups. They're more worried about takeovers from the armed wings. They become steadily more frightened, and therefore, because obviously the only excuse that those people have for their power is, well, but you need to be scared and we need to keep you safe. And that's their excuse. You see things get steadily more authoritarian naturally because of that. And you see that in country after country throughout history, and you're seeing that in the United States in real time before your very eyes, seeing that steady descent into absolute authoritarianism because the police have all the power. And this just demonstrates that, just how much they have, that even if you didn't notice it before, they can literally change legislation by basically threatening to help the opposition to the people who support bill.
Like, they literally have the power to choose to enforce a law or not. Like, we see that in Virginia, in Eastern Washington. There's a couple other places that have like assault weapons bans and things like that, where they said no, we're not going to enforce that, and they don't enforce it, right? Like, it's a state law, but they don't enforce it,
right?
So like they're literally, you can make the argument that they're legislating from the cuff, I guess,
at the barrel of a gun.
At the barrel of a gun. So.
Which really is where all legislation gains its power anyway, is at the barrel.
Oh yeah, laws are just words on paper.
Right. If it wasn't for the enforcement arm.
My toilet paper has words on it too.
Yeah. I can take a piece of paper and write down, you're not allowed to do this, and even have a bunch of my friends sign it. But until we're all willing to enact violence to ensure that you don't do it, it's irrelevant.
Right.
No. Yeah.
I mean, that should terrify the shit out of people. The idea that a law that objectively is not only a morally good thing, like a walk back of laws, really is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Not only is that a good thing and a moral thing, but it's also supported by the majority of Americans, and no one will touch it in your government because they are terrified of the police.
Who supposedly work for the public.
You know,
allegedly.
Right.
But they have no obligation to protect the public. That the government has ruled they have no obligation to protect the people.
And you know,
that
looking at this article here, like Andrew said, it should absolutely scare the living hell out of everybody and anybody who sees this. The problem is what you're going to see is the people on the left and even those on the right who actively support deschedulization of the
you know what's funny about that is like I know as many Republicans that smoke pot as I do Democrats that smoke pot.
Right. And that's the thing. It's really universal across the board, unless you are either A, massively authoritarian, or B, a cop, which I repeat myself. But I mean, unless you're in those one camp, I don't know anybody that's really saying this needs to stay banned, except for the glory hounds, because in a conversation that I had with one such glory hound, he says, "Oh, that's where we cut our teeth, was against the cartels." And okay,
well, the cartels wouldn't exist as they are now if it wasn't for the criminalization of
well, yeah, remember the birth of modern marijuana took place in the 1970s in Mexico. And specifically in one province of Mexico, thanks to one guy whose brother would go on to found the cartel in Mexico that ruled the country. That's the reason why you have the marijuana that you have, is that one man in a shitty farming province in Mexico who came up with the way to get all female plants.
Yeah.
That guy. He's the one who invented it. And the only way that he was able to propagate it and create the massive grow that he had and everything else, and they were able to concentrate that power and everything, was because drugs were illegal. If they had been legal, he never would have had the power. Felix, I don't remember his last name, who founded that cartel, he never would have had the ability to do that without the drug war.
Well, yeah,
which Joe fucking Biden was an architect of.
Yeah, prohibition. Going back to we go to moonshine is a perfect example of this. Like, prohibition on goods and services only drives things to the black market, right? Well, the black market becomes highly profitable and highly violent at that point, right? Because of the competition, right? And in a white market, you're not going to have that sort of violence because that's everywhere, right? Something like Walmart. Like, Walmart doesn't have to bomb Target.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, that would be fun to watch.
Taco Bell doesn't have to go to war with the other.
They literally have a bullseye. Just putting that out there.
$500,000 up, $500,000 right. Send it.
Car hits a ramp.
Yeah.
Oh, drop the couch for effect.
But I mean, look at like Demolition Man with the franchise wars.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying with Taco Bell. Like, Taco Bell doesn't actually have to go to war with the other restaurants because there's tons, and they can just build more, and they can just operate in the open and everything else. And everywhere that has legalized marijuana has seen a decrease in drug-related crime. Why? Because it's legal. You can operate in the open. There is no point in doing business with criminals and like violent people if I can just go and open a fucking business.
Prostitution is another one. That's another perfect example of that. And Nevada has illegal prostitution. That they don't allow streetwalkers, but they have legal prostitution, and that's clean. The girls are protected. They're taken care of. They have a place to conduct business. They're not in shady back alleys behind dumpsters, things like that.
Yep.
Well, yeah. Look at when the UK decided they would stop even going after streetwalkers. Like you can be a streetwalker, you can't have a brothel in the UK.
But they formed a union. That doesn't count.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's a little ridiculous, but I bet those meetings are interesting. But just saying. Yeah, I'll be a union representative for that.
All right. All right.
But what you see though with them is that they're, if they're attacked or they're robbed or they're raped, they can go to the police, they can get help, they can, go to a hospital, they can do all these things without fear of being picked up for their profession. And so it makes them all safer, and it means that people are less likely to attack them because, well, if I attack them, then they're going to go to just as anybody else. They'll go to the police, and then I'll be caught, and then I'll go to prison. So you make things safer by making them legal, not by making them legal, but by not banning them and making them illegal, by not forcing them into the black market. I mean, before we actually, Lindsay and I just had that conversation because we were watching Making the Mob, Chicago, and they were talking about before Prohibition and how the mob had brothels and like casinos, underground casinos. And that was all they had for the most part for before Prohibition. They were just that's what they ran because that was illegal. Gambling and prostitution were illegal. So if they ran those and they were willing to offer that, they had the clientele. And so it pushes it into the black market, and it gives the people who are willing to break the law as it is power. And so that's what they did. And then when Prohibition happened, Capone and Johnny, I don't remember his last name. Anyway, he, Capone's like mentor, they went into bootlegging and started making gobs of money, more than they ever made with gambling and prostitution, because there's such a high demand.
Because the high demand, there was high demand for a high profit.
Yeah, and so and they were willing to break the law, and other people weren't. So they made all the money. They concentrated all the power. Things just got steadily more violent. You had the beer wars in Chicago in the 1920s, where you had people being killed on the street daily. It kind of culminated in the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, and the night that Chicago died. And if you've never heard the song or read the story, you should probably look it up because it's pretty impressive. That's a hell of a gunfight, man. But you had all of that as a direct and inescapable result, not of liquor existing, a result of it being in demand and being banned by the government. Prohibition breeds crime, plain and simple.
Yep. So, all right, let's now that we just talked about people going to the cops for help, we got a Dallas Bludgie doing Bludgie things, and I'm just gonna read the article. I know nothing. All right, a Dallas man has filed an excessive force civil lawsuit against the Dallas Police Department, who he claims punched him 11 times and kneed him in the face twice during an arrest back in 2018. The lawsuit filed on the behalf of Javier Saez against Elvin Salix Bajarana. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. According to court documents, this case goes back to the arrest on January 23, 2018, when Bajarana and his partner responded to a call about an intoxicated person. Dallas police were called because Sands was reportedly passed out on the side of the roadway. Right? I mean, that's worth checking on, right?
Is he okay? Is he dead?
The body camera video obtained by Fox 4 shows him and another man sitting upright as firefighter paramedics evaluated them. A police affidavit said officers determined Sands could be hit by a car or could become a victim of a crime if he was not arrested.
Wait. So, in order to prevent him from becoming a victim or dying by car, they treated him like a common criminal?
Hold on.
We don't want you to suffer a crime at someone else's hands, you son of a bitch.
When Sayers was told to put his hands behind his back, he tried to stand up. That's when he was reportedly thrown to the ground and restrained. While being restrained, Sands was initially, quote, passively resisting by not giving the officer his hands, according to the lawsuit. And that's when Benea or Baharana
reportedly
Barahona?
Yeah, I think it's Barahona.
Calix Barahona reportedly started punching Sands. After punching Sands in the face 11 times, the lawsuit claims Baharana said, quote, "Don't fuck with me, man." While Sands was stationary on the ground and, quote, clearly not resisting or threatening anyone, according to the lawsuit, Baharana is then accused of kneeing him in the face twice. After the second time, Baharana's partner reportedly told him, "Okay, stop. We got him."
Even his partner recognized that he was just beating this guy up for the fucking sake of beating him up.
The lawsuit also alleges that Sands was handcuffed and, quote, clearly restrained and not resisting. Calix Baharana kneeled on top of him for almost 6 minutes. In the body cam video, Sands can be heard saying, quote, "I can't breathe," as Baharana used his knee to restrain him while trying to apply handcuffs.
Which is interesting because, again, and I brought this up when the conversation first happened on the podcast, where I talked to that sheriff's deputy from Iowa that was just absolutely disgusted with the death
Floyd.
with George Floyd, and the death that resulted from clearly not appropriate restraint. And he even said, he was like, "We have always been trained. You don't do that because positional asphyxia is a serious danger and happens." Like, even other cops do know that this is wrong, which means this cop definitely knows not to do that, and he did it anyway.
Yep. Police and paramedics later removed Sands to a stretcher and took him to the hospital. And officers are heard blaming Sands for what happened. Quote, "You shouldn't have made us do that, man," an officer heard saying on the body cam video.
That guy definitely beats his wife.
I was going to say, if that doesn't sound like domestic abuse all over the place, you made me do this. Why did you make me do this?
His injuries from the scuffle were visible in the mugshot.
Because he was drunk on the side of the highway. And they were worried that someone might beat him up.
So instead, they beat him up.
Yeah, they beat him up. What? There is no way. There is no way that these officers involved do not beat their wives regularly. Because you don't have that kind of mentality unless you are an abuser.
Right.
Like, you have to be an abuser to think that way. You just do.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And you can't tell me that this is the only time that this particular piece of shit has had something similar filed against him.
Yeah.
You can't convince me of that.
Yeah, Sands was initially charged for drug possession and assault on a public servant, but the drug charge was dismissed and there is no record of the assault case was pursued.
So they didn't dismiss it, they just dropped it, probably.
Yeah.
Although you can bet your fucking ass they're going to try and come up with something new to charge him with now that he's suing them.
Oh, for sure.
Freaking cheat.
That's the way they do it. But we have to arrest him because he might get hurt or he might become the victim of a crime. So we made him the victim of a crime and hurt him.
You know, whatever happened to... There used to be a time in this country. There used to be a time where if a cop found you like that, like passed out drunk on the side of the road or something, they'd be like, "Hey, man, I'm going to give you a ride home." And they'd put you in the back, but they wouldn't arrest you or anything. They just give you a ride home and drop you off because they're like, "I don't want you to get hurt." I've had cops pick me up because my car broke down and I was walking on the side of the road back years ago when I was a teenager. and my car broke down, and I'm walking down the side of the road at night, and I have a cop stop, and he's like, dude, you're going to get hit by a car or something. Like, do you need a ride somewhere? And I'm like, yeah, I could use a ride. And then he picks me up and then takes me where I need to go to be sure that I'm safe and I'm okay.
Uh-huh.
What? That used to be the mentality of cops once upon a time in this country. That was how they thought. And in Europe, they still think
and it wasn't even that long ago.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was within my lifetime, within my adult lifetime.
I mean, I can remember, was it 2010, maybe 2011, leaving a fireman's dance, and me being colorblind, I see better in the dark, didn't turn my headlights on right away. Cop pulled me over, gave me field sobriety, all that stuff. I blew a .07. So not quite enough for him to be able to arrest me for DUI. He's like, well, I can't let you drive home, so you and your wife get in the car and I'll take you home.
Yeah.
Yeah, because safety was what mattered. It was about safety. It wasn't about punishment.
To be fair, that's when they were public servants. Yeah. Now they're law enforcement.
Exactly. And that's when they took the protect and serve off of their cars. Should have sent a message to everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it when I see a squad car now that still has the protect and serve on the side. I'm like, that looks like false advertisement. I should sue you.
Protect and serve. Well, no, they still protect and serve, just not you.
Oh, that's fair.
They're not specifying who.
Yep. Hashtag caste system.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're about protecting and serving the elites. But I mean, that's the thing is like I think, but the problem is that so many people still remember the Andy Griffith cops and forget that they're all now Bonnie.
Not only that, but that's also what they show on TV.
Oh yeah, right? Yeah, I've had that.
The Law and Order, the CSI, the NCIS, the movie SWAT. You know, all these good guy cops going just outside of the law in order to defend to defend people from being hurt and blah 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 blah. And it's all propaganda. That's not reality.
Absolutely.
I mean, I point that out because Lindsay watches a lot of Law and Order, and I have to remind her all the time. I'm like, remember, this is pretending that the police really care, and maybe and I will even give you that maybe there are people within SVUs, right, special victims units that specialize in rapes and sexual abuse and child abuse, that they still care and they really are trying to do good for somebody. Those still exist in those units, probably.
Yes.
Certainly not all of them, but there are still quite a few.
Just on the percentage base. I mean, just statistically, they have to exist.
Yeah, there are definitely people within those specialized units, yes, who do care. But you have to remember, even if you believe that there are a lot of them, even if you believe it's the majority of the people in the special victims units, that is not the majority of the police force.
No, that is such an astronomically small percentage.
It's incredibly tiny. I mean, especially in because remember, Law and Order SVU takes place in the NYPD, the largest police force on planet fucking Earth.
8th largest army in the world.
Yeah. So think about how small a single unit that's maybe what, 2,000? Maybe 2,000 in that size. No, that is the tiniest of tiny in this giant cesspool of the dregs of fucking society. Absolute dregs of fucking society. And you have to remember that the reality is all of those shows that show you the cops trying to do good are inaccurate. The Shield is fucking accurate. Where they're a criminal fucking organization that's out for number one, who occasionally do good things. Because let's be honest, in the Shield, they do occasionally actually do good things. They occasionally bust bad guys. They occasionally kill bad guys. Frequently kill bad guys. That happens. That does happen. They do still wind up, but that's incidental. That isn't their primary goal. That isn't what they're mainly trying to do. That's incidental to what they're.
Yeah. All right, let's
Side note, you were talking about NYPD, 55,000 total employees with 36,000 uniformed officers.
Fuck.
36,000. That's. Oh, I'm spacing right now. Chris, help me out here. So that's what, 2 divisions?
Yeah,
2.5?
roughly.
Like 2.5 divisions? 2.5 army divisions worth of are uniformed people.
Yeah. So.
Jesus.
All right. Elderly New Jersey homeowner nearly loses home over 6 cents in back taxes.
A nickel and a penny.
Yes.
Pocket change. Literally pocket change.
My daughter, my 6-year-old fucking daughter, could pay the back taxes on this property.
It balloons. All right.
This is so infuriating. Like you said, this is gonna make me rant. This is so fucking beyond the pale.
We've covered them, like the one in Michigan where it was like $600 or something like that. Or
no, there was a guy in Michigan that had like $8.
Was it 8? Right. It was like 8 or 11 or something like that.
Yeah, and then there was another one in Nebraska. There was the one in Arizona where the vet lost his house. And all right, the city.
Even with those, this is beyond the fucking pale.
Oh, it's yeah. I just goosebumps. All right. The city truly nickeled and dimed. Well, they didn't even dime her because just nickeled and pennied her. All right, the city truly nickeled and dimed her. An 89-year-old New Jersey woman who suffers from Alzheimer's disease nearly lost her home because of a merely 6 cents she owed in back taxes. The tiny debt which she neglected to pay on her 2019 taxes then accrued more than $300 in interest by last week, prompting officials in Ocean Township to put Glenn Christie Goldenthal's house up for sale on September 9th.
You motherfuckers.
It went from 6 cents to more than $300 in fees and taxes.
That's what kind of an interest rate is that got to be? So
that's worse than the interest rate at your job, Andrew.
What's that? Like that's got to be like 50,000% or something. That's an insane amount.
It's a 2,000 or 20,000% interest rate, something like that. 20,000.
20,000%. Yeah, roughly that.
Quote, shame on anybody who can't think far enough outside the box. That it came. Okay, sorry. I'm trying to stay calm, but I'm not being able to stay calm. All right. Quote, shame on anybody who can't think far outside the box enough to come up with 6 cents in an office full of people. You can't pull a dime out of your pocket. Goldenthal's infuriated daughter Lisa told the station. Lisa only,
exactly too. Jesus.
Yeah, Lisa only found out about the 6 cents, which started the whole ordeal on the day that her mother's house was put up for sale. Quote, she called me dozens of times in the last 24 hours asking, is my house going to be okay? Do I have to pack? Where am I going to go? Where am I going to live? Goldenthal received at least one warning call from a tax collector, but Lisa of Virginia says her mom is forgetful due to her condition. Remember, she has Alzheimer's, you guys. And that even that official who phoned her, could tell that she needed help.
Real quick, I need to correct Andrew in my math. Based on what I'm seeing, that is a 500,000% interest rate.
Okay, my math sucks on that. I wasn't entirely sure how to actually do it, so I kind of fault.
Quote, apparently the tax collector called her because when I talked to him, he said he realized there was something wrong that she didn't understand. I said, I'm sorry, you're still in my mother's house today because she owes you 6 cents. He said, yeah, it's amazing how these things snowball. And I was like, quote, it's 6 cents. Like even the tax collector who called the house could tell that the woman needed help with things, like mentally needed help understanding, and they still push the process of trying to sell this woman's fucking house over 6 fucking cents.
Yeah, because their government workers are always the winners of the Not My Job award. Well, she definitely needs help, and this is completely unethical, but I'm not paid to be ethical. I'm paid to work for the government. So, let me go ahead and oppress some more people.
In a desperate attempt to save her mother's home, Lisa called the Monmouth County Township's office, including Mayor Christopher Silencio. Silencio later apologized for the situation. Quote, naturally, it's really embarrassing the town would put someone's house up for sale over 6 cents. It's silly, he said. Lisa paid off her mom's debt, and the house was taken off the market, but is still paid off the debt. Like, if she's in Virginia and she paid off the debt, which means she had to do it over the phone using like a debit card or credit card or something like that, the processing fee is more, probably multiple times more than the 6 cents back taxes.
In fact, in most government agencies, if you run a credit or debit card for anything, they charge you a 15% convenience fee at a minimum.
Woo, 7.5 cents.
Right?
All I can think of is this right here.
Yes. The widow's homestead.
Yep. This is a widow's fucking homestead.
Those are townspeople holding down one of the sheriff's deputies. The sheriff came out to evict her. The townspeople said, double finger fuck you. And literally, with their guns pointed at the sheriff and the deputies and the bank officials, told them, no, this is this woman's house. Y'all can fuck off.
Yep. And when they tried, they proceeded to physically subdue them.
Yep.
And lock them all in the town jail.
Yep. So,
because fucking no.
Yeah. Quote, how many people during the pandemic or any time are being victimized by this greedy, broken system? That is another quote from the daughter. Yes, 6 cents. Obviously property taxes are bullshit to begin with. Taxation is theft, and if you have to pay property taxes, you don't actually own the property. It's the government's property. You're renting it from them, so it's not a tax. It's like a rent, etc., etc., etc. Hashtag land of the not free.
Yep.
Yes.
Exactly.
But even in a land where you don't have the choice to not, because let's be honest, you can refuse to, but they will show up eventually armed to take the property.
Yep.
And strategically trying to not do that is a bad decision.
Yep. Ask Ed and Elaine Brown.
Yeah, there's a point where it just has even gone beyond the realm of sane oppression to blatant tyranny. And that is where this has reached. Like, this is what infuriates me about this. It's 6 cents. 6/10 of a single dollar.
Yeah.
No, not 6/10 of a dollar. 6/10 of a dime.
6/10 of a dime.
Or sorry, 6/10 of a dime. 6/10 of a dime. 6/100ths of a dollar. It's nothing. It's absolutely
You could walk
nothing.
down the street and pick up 6 pennies off the ground.
There's
take care of this.
There's more change than that in the give a penny, take a penny at my local liquor store down the street.
Yeah, exactly. If any of these people, if a single one individual had been an ethical, moral, non-reprehensible pile of shit.
Hold on, that's where else I was going with this, because in the source article for the one that I just read, there's a quote here from the mayor. The mayor apologized and admits the system needs fixing. Quote, you can keep paying the quarterly payment, but the back payment triggers an amount that eventually caused a tax sale. This is all computer generated, not something that a human can correct.
And this doesn't terrify anyone?
Not only that, but before they start sending out notices and shit, somebody's got to look at some of this shit eventually, maybe.
No, because it's not their job. The computer does it.
But I mean, you still have to see the letter before it goes in the envelope to go down the road.
No, not necessarily.
The one person that
the computerized folding machines and stuffing machines.
The one person that called her admitted that they can tell that she needed help,
and just didn't care.
And just didn't care.
This is why it drives me insane when people go, "Oh, but you need government because it needs to take care of people and it need." Look at this. Look at this for a minute and Just look at how inhuman this entire thing was from beginning to end. This was 6 cents. This was a nickel and a penny. This is the kind of change that if you drop it on the street, you go, that rolled too far away, and continue talking. That's how much this was. And not a single person in this entire office of people, probably 20 to 30 people,
probably more.
Yeah, not one could be bothered to go, well, this is ridiculous. Here's the change. Let's just take care of this as a decent human being. Not one of them was a decent human being. Not one of them was a moral human being. I would wager that most of them really act like not human beings on the job at all. They're all machines. They are all simply cogs and meaningless, nameless individuals to themselves as well as to everyone else.
There's an article we're going to cover in a little bit here along that very line.
Yeah, and instead of going, oh, well, I should be human about this and I should understand and we should take care of this and let's just fix this because she's got Alzheimer's and
instead the guy you get, well, that snowballs fast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that snowballs fast.
Oh, my bad. Our bad. Whoops. Sorry.
Are you kidding me? I have higher expectations. I had higher expectations of me when I worked for cell phone companies and telecom companies with things like that for my customer service. I had higher expectations where if that was the case, that they're about to be shut off over 6 cents, I would just go ahead and waive the 6 cents so that they didn't get shut off because it was stupid and didn't make any sense.
Yeah, and then they got reconnection fees and late fees and all this other bullshit, and and then you get $300 out of 6 cents.
500,000% interest over 6 cents.
Even the big bad telecom companies won't pull this shit. Even they are more human than a local government, which has the power to take your home away from you.
No, they were going to sell the house that day if the daughter did not come up with the 6 cents. Or if nobody came up with the 6 cents. They were going to throw an 89-year-old Alzheimer's patient out on the street over 6 fucking cents.
Over the change that the guy who stood there and said, well, yeah, these things snowball pretty fast, could have easily just said, you know what, this is fucking stupid. Instead, he stood there like a fucking zombie and went, we're going to sell the house.
What? Because that's what the rules say. But I mean, that's the thing. It's even just working for government. Like all those people who go, oh, well, I have relatives who work for government.
Andrew, you got robot voice.
Click your mic on and off real quick.
I am.
You got the robot voice again?
Is that better?
No, physically click your mic off and on again. We need Jeopardy theme music.
Is that better?
No.
Nope.
Did that fix it? What the fuck? You know what it is it's fucking Keybase fucking with my shit, man.
Huh? There's a... We're not going to go there. All right.
But no, what I was going to say is even the people who... God damn it. But the people...
You can hear it now, right?
Yeah.
Click your mic on. Click your mic on.
Come on, Johnny Five.
Turn your mic off for a few seconds.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Hang on. Let me try this.
There you go.
Oh.
Better.
Yeah, that was better.
Okay. What I was gonna say is what drives me nuts is that these people who have friends and relatives and things who work for government or they're cops or whatever, and they go, but I know them. I've known them forever, and they're good people. Well, in their day-to-day normal human lives, they might be. But what you have to understand about the mechanism of government is it destroys anything that makes you human.
Yes.
Anything that would otherwise be a human moral issue becomes but it's the law. But it's the rules. And that's all you are. And then you just do that. And you don't bother to question it. You don't bother to think about it. You never ask the question, should I be doing this morally? It never even enters into your brain. If you are working for government, it just doesn't. I've worked for government a lot. And it never even enters into your head, should I be doing this? That never crosses your mind. Because no, government says it's okay. So you just sacrifice all of your moral agency in deference to what a bunch of people in literal actual marble halls have decided is going to be okay. You defer to them for your morality, and you stop even thinking one way or another, which is how it doesn't even make you want to throw up that you're about to take a Alzheimer's patient's house over 6 cents.
An 89-year-old woman suffering from Alzheimer's. And they came within a cunt hair of taking the woman's house over 6 cents.
It's just...
And, the amount of time that I've spent, interacting with you guys, none of this surprises me. Like the 6 cents, it doesn't surprise me.
Nope.
We sit here and look at it and go, how can somebody be that inhuman? But at the same time, we're looking at each other going, but they're government. And that's the bottom line. Like Andrew said, he was just a robot voice. These people are literal robots. They might as well have had lobotomies for the amount of conscious thoughts they do.
No. All right, so we have to do this other one now. And then we'll move on to the final two, but a toilet and a sign, statement or not, it may be illegal. Ingham County clerk contends. This is from Michigan. This is from the Lansing State Journal. A toilet perched on a front lawn, accompanied by a sign saying, quote, "Place mail-in ballots here," might be construed as a political statement of sorts. However you interpret it, Ingham County Clerk Barb Bryam said it might be illegal. Quote, "It's solicitation of absentee ballots into a container. Our election integrity is not a game. I expect everyone to act appropriately, and this is unacceptable."
It may not be a game, but it is a fucking joke.
Bryam issued the statement with a photo of the display in Mason, saying she filed a police report about it with dispatchers on Monday.
What a fucking Karen.
Mason police contacted her on Wednesday and promised to call her after they'd spoken with the homeowner. Under Michigan election law, illegally taking possession of an absentee ballot is a felony punishable by a maximum of 5 years in prison and a $1,000 fine. The display set up in the front yard of a home on West Columbia Street near Mechanic Street. A, quote, "Recall Whitmer" sign and a John James election sign are posted in the same yard. Governor Gretchen Whitmer is a Democrat and James is a Republican running for the U.S. Senate. No one was at the home when State Journal photographer knocked on the door. But without a statement, Bryam, a Democrat, said she found it, quote, "more than a little ironic that the person registered at the address has voted absentee for the past 3 years. That type of information is publicly available," she said. She also said she worries that President Donald Trump, quote, "is encouraging people to lose faith in the absentee voting process."
Well, first of all, I can't fault him for that because based on everything that's going on, dude's fucking right.
Absolutely.
So I love when everyone got all up in arms when he basically said that the post office was a useless pile of shit. And I'm like, but it is. I hate when he's right, but he is.
This is not only that, but I love it how they the lefties are all saying, "Oh, but we need the post office. We need the post office because they're going to deliver all the ballots on time." And then the post office union turns around and endorses Biden.
Yeah.
As though that's not a sign that corruption is really easy.
So here's oh, hang on.
It went off.
I timed out. There we go. So this is the sign in question.
Yeah, with the toilet display right there.
If there is a human being who can honestly confuse that, like if there's a person who honestly confuses that with a legitimate drop-off location for a mail-in ballot, I am not concerned about the fact that they're not voting.
Can we just call that like electoral Darwinism or something?
Yeah, pretty much. If you're really that dumb, it's political speech and it's protected political speech.
Yeah, but with their government, they don't care.
You gotta wonder if that exists and all that. Because that was somebody like this county clerk here were to place a ballot in there on purpose and just be like, look, he broke the law, just to fuck with him more.
I could see some piece of shit doing that.
And that is why you make it a furnace. Because then when they drop it in, it gets immediately burned and turns to ash. Prove it. Prove that anyone put anything in there.
Go take a shit in the toilet and wipe your ass with your absentee ballot.
There. No, if you want to investigate that and see if that's an actual absentee ballot, you be my guest. I ate Taco Bell earlier, so you enjoy.
After a long night of drinking beer.
Yes, like a very dark beer. Like I've been drinking Guinness for the past 15 hours, but you know what? And then I had Taco Bell. But you go ahead and you investigate that ballot.
Yeah, with a side of Chipotle.
I ain't going anywhere near that one.
That'll be real fun, man. You enjoy.
FBI's Hamas sting against Boogaloo Boys was so absurd that even Hamas spoke out against it.
I fucking love this so much. Even the fucking actual terrorists are like, the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah. On August 29th, in a Minnesota hotel room, Michael Solomon, a pudgy 30-year-old man with a brown, scraggly beard, and a pimple-faced 22-year-old friend, Benjamin Teeter, handed over, quote, a drop-in autoseer, a special part used to convert a gun to fully automatic fire, as if Hamas couldn't get fully automatic weapons.
Right. I mean...
Well, because as we all know, all of the AKs that they use against Israel all the time are definitely semi-automatic.
Oh, totally, yeah.
10 round limited magazine.
all registered, all bought legally.
Yeah.
Solomon and Teeter were accompanied by two men who they believed were members of Hamas, a Palestinian political and militant organization that the U.S. government has designated a foreign terrorist organization. Solomon and Teeter, who had been on the streets of Minneapolis following the killing of George Floyd by police, claimed to be members of the group called the Mujahideen, a part of the so-called Boogaloo movement, a loosely organized collection of far-right pro-gun extremists who advocate for civil war and the overthrow of the U.S. government.
First of all, God damn it, Ryan.
Yeah.
Right?
God damn it, Ryan. But anyway, continue.
The Hamas operatives have enlisted the two men to build parts that could modify weapons. The arrangement was the first of what it was supposed to be a growing partnership between Hamas and the Mujahideen. I'm having a really hard time taking this. I know. And the article it changes. It's just okay. Teeter told the Hamas members that they should test the drop-in autoseer before using it in battle, in order to get a sense of how fast the bullets discharged. One of the Hamas operatives then asked if the gun part could be used to kill Americans and Israeli soldiers. Yeah, Solomon told him. About a week later, Solomon and Teeter discovered that their new colleagues weren't Hamas members. One was an FBI informant, the other an undercover agent. On September 9th, the Justice Department announced an indictment against Solomon and Teeter, charging them with attempting to provide material support to Hamas. Now Hamas, the group the FBI agents were pretending to represent, is publicly denouncing the prosecution and its supposed connection to the two Boogaloo members.
Even they're like, what kind of a moron thinks that we would buy from those people? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Well, and on top of that, so I just want to preface, because I don't know if the article goes into it, but Benjamin Ryan Teeter is LGBT.
Yes.
Yep.
And also hyper leftist. So the idea that Hamas would willingly work with someone like that,
they'd throw him off a roof so fast.
It's fucking hilarious.
All right. Quote, when we read about this, it was really shocking to connect our movement with such extremists, said Basim Naim, a Hamas member who's the head of the Council of International Relations in Gaza, in an interview with The Intercept.
That is my favorite part. That is my favorite part of this whole article. Like, when I read that, I just sat there and stared at it. And went, wait a minute. Hamas just called the Boogaloo Boys
Extremists.
Well, we never had anything with those extremists.
Yeah.
What? You fire rockets at schools. Fuck you.
This is the first time that a designated terrorist group that the FBI pretended to be came out publicly to denounce a sting case. Quote, first of all, Hamas is a Palestinian national movement, and we have limited our struggle for freedom and independence within the boundaries of Palestine, and we have nothing to do with outside of those geographical territories. The second thing, we have nothing planned, and we are not interested not intending to plan against the United States.
Well, first of all, yeah, of course they're not going to go after the United States because we're the ones arming them. Second of all, I just the idea that an actual international terrorist organization
released a public statement denouncing the FBI pretending to be them.
Yeah, going, how dare you? How dare you besmirch our good name?
There's no way we'd hook up with those scary Mujahideen extremists.
You know, and the reason is, I guarantee you part of the reason is that we legitimately scare them. That's definitely part of it.
That's definitely part of it.
We do actually scare them because the amount of firepower that the American public is actually capable of bringing to bear, independent of the government and the military.
The average, what was the most recent numbers? Like the average American has, was it like 8.5 firearms or something like that?
Probably something close to that.
Somewhere in that range.
And we have access to and the knowledge base to build like significant like explosive devices and rockets. And
it's not like the U.S. has been involved in a situation for the last 19 plus years with thousands and thousands of returning military vets with information
with serious training and
that they like to share.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is like we do legitimately, like the Boog Boys do legitimately scare Hamas, number one, because what Boog Boys are capable of by being Americans, having access to the weapons they do and everything, it actually should scare people. The right people, keep in mind the right people. It is not a right-wing, hyper-conservative, racist bullshit movement, and anyone who says so is a lying sack of shit.
Or is trying to push you an agenda, which, one and the same.
Yeah, but, I mean, like, the fact that we can bring that to bear is what scares them, which is also why they're trying to separate themselves from us, because they wanted to make sure that everyone understood that they weren't involved. But no, that ain't us,
wasn't
man.
us. That wasn't us.
Hell no.
No,
I'm going like this with my hands, and I don't want nothing to do with it.
We have had nothing to do with this. Nothing to do with this. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Don't worry about my cloak in the Hawaiian print. You don't see this.
Yeah. FBI stings such as this are part of a well-worn counterterrorism tactic. Since the September 11th attacks, the FBI has arrested more than 340 defendants who were caught up in the counterterrorism sting in which they believe they were supporting the Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, or other foreign terrorist organization.
FBI foils FBI terror plot.
Yep. The Mujahideen case did something rare. Over the years, the FBI usually uses foreign terror plots to coax would-be adherents of these foreign groups, whereas in the Mujahideen case, the FBI linked up domestic extremists with a foreign terror group under the Justice Department's normal modus operandi, using something of a double standard. Right-wing domestic terrorists do not face terrorism charges.
Well, first of all, that's not actually strictly speaking true. But second of all, the calling people.
I really wish they would quit calling the Boog and all those guys right wing.
There's nothing right wing about Boogaloo Boy. There's nothing right wing at all. There's not even remotely. It's not right wing. It's right. And the funny thing is that it's called extremist because it's extreme to be pro-freedom in a land of authoritarianism.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So scary. I want to be free. Watch out. He's a terrorist.
Yeah. Ooga booga.
And I mean, just in my own personal interactions with people, I know people that are they are stupidly going to run to the polls and vote for Biden or vote for Howie Hawkins or anything like that. And they're right now talking to me and a couple other people that I know about the Boog. You know, what is this? What's the deal? Like, this is not isolated to one side of the political spectrum or the other. This is just people that are at the point where they're like, fucking government, leave us alone. If you just leave us alone, we'll go away.
Well, and the funny thing is they're saying, they are in this article, they are calling the Boog a right-wing extremist movement while they're talking about the rest of an LGBT avowed socialist.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, just process that for a minute. The complete cognitive dissonance it takes to write this article unironically.
And this is from The Intercept, and they don't do too many ironic articles, so
yeah, just good lord.
Yeah, still the use of stings involving foreign terror plots is still unsettling to some law enforcement and rights experts. Human Rights Watch has criticized these stings for often targeting, quote, those with intellectual and mental disabilities and the indigenous.
Mm-hmm.
The FBI has long defended its practice by saying that the stings allow federal law enforcement to find would-be terrorists before real terrorist groups have the opportunity. But, as in the Mujahideen case, the threats often seem to be concocted by the FBI out of whole cloth in order to initiate charges.
Mm-hmm.
Like Andrew said, the FBI has foiled the FBI terror plot.
Yeah, yes. Exactly. I mean, like that incident where the FBI arrested the ATF or vice versa?
Yeah.
Where absolutely everyone involved was fake, and like they both celebrated as this big time arrest and completely pretended that it wasn't actually just a bunch of made up bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just like that story out of Detroit where this precinct was being drug dealers and this precinct was being drug buyers.
Yeah, and they busted each other. And nobody was actually really doing. And that's the thing is you keep seeing this. You keep seeing where if no one had ever gone out of their way to entrap these people, then nothing would ever have happened. I mean, look at the FBI sting in the Twin Cities years ago where the FBI artificially created that like terror bombing plot or whatever and convinced for like Muslim extremism and convinced that Down syndrome kid to become part of it.
They did that in Southern California. Police at got a Down syndrome kid at a high school to sell pot for them.
Yeah.
And even like forced the kid to get a tattoo or some BS like that.
Yeah.
And then like when he didn't sell enough pot at the high school, they arrested him.
Yeah.
For intent to distribute.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they arrest him, and they're the ones who created the whole thing, and he's, and that's the thing, is then they go, well, we're protecting them from being preyed upon by individuals who might force them to do these things. You're the individuals who forced them to do the things.
Yeah,
if you had never approached Ryan and his buddy to do this, they never would have done it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is a really long article, and we did just like 4 or 5 paragraphs of it. We should. I'm gonna bookmark this, and we'll do the full article next week, because it would take the majority of an episode. We only got like 15 minutes left.
Yeah, a special episode would be cool to do on this one, just to cover the ridiculousness of it. But
I just want to read the statement from the Hamas saying, "Oh no, these guys are extremists. We're not part of that again." That was... So, all right, let's get to this last article, and then we'll get out of here. How a quote Hillbilly Brigade saved an Oregon town from raging wildfires.
I love this story. I love this. Love this story.
Just like the one back during that hurricane in Texas, where
the Cajun Navy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, where the Cajun Navy were the ones who actually responded in a big way. Yep. And the dudes with the monster trucks that are built like mine.
The high lifted trucks, yeah. Yep. That actually showed up in my Facebook memories.
Yep, it did mine too.
Like 4 or 5 days ago, a week ago, something like that. There was the video of the guy with the lifted truck.
Mm-hmm.
And the police officer stopped him and said he couldn't go in and rescue people because he didn't have a registered vehicle, or the registration on his vehicle was expired or something like that.
Yeah, and he was trying to use it on public roads.
Yeah.
And he's like, what roads? It's under 4.5 feet of water. What roads? Yeah. And he just, but I mean, I saw the one video where the Vice did, where they actually did a ride along, and they talked about how emergency responders were riding along with all of these dudes, like this whole big mudding community, because obviously those are all mud trucks. The mudding community came together, brought their trucks, because they recognized that if anyone could get through this, they could. And they started rescuing people, and they brought supplies and emergency responders places, and they were giving rides to even to police to get to places and things. And like everyone was depending on them to be the ones to drive around, because there wasn't anything else that could do what these purpose-built, privately owned vehicles could pull off.
Yep. Yeah, the water was too deep for even like the military and the National Guard Humvees. Like it was feet and feet and feet of water.
Yep, but if you have a truck that's designed to go through 4.5 to 5 foot deep mud plus 3 feet of water on top of it, guess what? You can pull that off.
All right, let's get into this article, because we've only got like 12 minutes now. All right. This is at Molalla. Is that how you pronounce it? Mollalla.
I'd say Molalla.
Sounds right.
Molalla, Oregon. Nicole West steered her bulldozer through the smoldering forest, pushing logs into the underbrush and away from the wildfires ripping through the Oregon's Cascade Mountains. Her border collie Oink rode shotgun as West and a volunteer crew raced to clear a fire line. Behind West, on the front lines of the 136,000-acre Riverside fire, 2 young men pulled a water tank behind their pickup truck, struggling to douse the flames. These are the men and women of the Hillbilly Brigade, about 1,200 in all, who came together this past week to fight the state's biggest wildfire in a century. They are credited with saving the mountain hamlet of Molalla, an hour's drive south of Portland, after 9,000 residents were forced to evacuate. In a year when ferocious wildfires have killed at least 34 and burned millions of acres in Oregon, Washington, and California, the brigade has pulled off a miracle in the thick forest around Molalla in recent days, residents and fire officials say. They organized and deployed themselves with little or no help from a small and overwhelmed local fire department, which focused on protecting the town's center, or from state and federal agencies that were deployed elsewhere. Quote, "We were left on our own to stop this," said West, a 36-year-old ranch hand, as she briefly paused her dozer late Wednesday afternoon. Quote, "There wasn't anybody coming from the state to save us, so we had to save ourselves."
There's no one coming. It's up to us.
Yes.
Gosh, to piggyback on that, that sounds an awful lot like everything that's been happening in the urban cities with police not showing up.
Yep.
Note to all of you listening, you are on your own. Figure out
Not only is the government not coming, the government, per SCOTUS ruling several times, has no obligation to protect you or your property.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Exactly.
So remember, if you're putting your faith in the state to save you, and you think that that's why we still need the state is to protect people, the state does not protect people.
Yes.
You do.
Yes. Yeah. Mike Penuri, fire marshal for the Molalla Fire District, which has just 13 firefighters and 33 volunteers, called the massive odd hoc effort amazing. Penuri's crews spent the past week hosing down flames that lapped at the town's edges and battling back fire around farmhouses. The Hillbilly Brigade, quote, improvised and turned their pickups into fire engines on the fly. They put stock tanks in their beds and used pumps to put out the hot spots. They're just regular guys from the area. They are not trained.
And if you are not somebody who has lived around a farm or around farmland and been on farms, as like I know me and Chris are, those pumps that you put into a stock tank are capable of pushing out a lot of water really
they are.
fast.
No.
The one that we had down at the one farm I worked at was a 12-horse Briggs & Stratton.
Yeah.
With a 2-inch hose.
So that's like,
that is a lot of water.
Yeah, think about it, it's something like, it translates something like 40,000 gallons per minute.
Yeah. Not per minute. Not per minute.
Per hour. Sorry, per hour. Yeah. That it can put through. So you're talking about
even like 100 gallons a minute is ridiculously good when it comes to this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for like spot fires and things. But
well, yeah, and 30. What is that? That's 34,000 gallons per hour is 566 gallons per minute.
Yeah. Residents of Molalla went to sleep on Labor Day thinking it was safe on the wildfires, but unusual wind gusts stunned forecasters and officials and pushed the fire north at a rapid clip. In the early morning hours of September 8th, it looked like Molalla would be engulfed in flames, just as towns in southern Oregon had been. The brigade quickly formed, amassing people who knew one another well and knew the difficult terrain all around them better than any outsider. They were lumberjacks and dairy farmers, friends and neighbors, cobbling together rudimentary equipment.
The necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it's almost like you don't need outside help if neighbors will just band together and help each other.
Yep. Right? The brigade filled a vacuum left by the absence of any government help, he said. The fires raging across Oregon have depleted the state's resources to battle the unprecedented blaze. Quote, I was in a horrible disbelief that nobody showed up. The Oregon Department of Forestry said it was overwhelmed trying to fight fires across the state. Its district near Molalla had just 26 firefighters and not near enough equipment to respond to the massive fires in the region. No.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine 26 people and probably three actual engines, maybe,
and probably a handful of pumper trucks.
Yeah, probably 2 trucks, maybe 1 or 2 engines, and then probably a crew transport.
Versus a 55,000 hectare fire. Yeah, no, that's not going to work, man.
Yeah. Price and other landowners quickly realized that they needed to save themselves and started calling one another. Within a couple of hours, Price's driveway became the headquarters for the area. Quote, it seemed like everybody just dropped everything and showed up by dawn. Even if they just had a shovel, they came to help. Dairy farmers brought water trucks that they normally use for their cattle. Loggers had smaller water tankers. Price said the crew on the Missouri Ridge had no access to water, so he set up ripping about 20-foot wide fire line in the forest with a bulldozer, which itself caught on fire at times as the trees blazed around it.
Pucker up.
Price's 30-year-old son, Breck, guided him around massive tree trunks. As he pushed forward for 2 straight days, he cut through the earth and kept the fire at bay at about 100 yards from his house.
Yeah.
which a gentle breeze can throw sparks 100 yards.
Yep. Oh my God.
You want to talk about some sweaty labor? That's some sweaty labor.
On Wednesday, Matt Myers, a 41-year-old power company employee, emerged from the fire's haze on a mountainous patch called Elk Prairie. He had a chainsaw on his shoulder and a week's worth of grime caked to his face. Myers and his crew were on the 9th straight day of battling blazes for more than 20 hours a day. He explained that he was acting as a type of scout, pushing ahead in the forest ahead of the dozers. He cut down snags, dead standing trees that would quickly fall on the machinery and the drivers, and blazed the initial trails into the forest.
Somebody's got to do it.
Somebody's got to do it.
Fuck. I have chills right now going down my back.
If you've never fought major forest fires, and I know, Jason, I know you have, and I have. Chris, I don't know if you've ever gone up against
not a major forest fire, but I've dealt with some smaller wildfires in the area.
Yeah,
nothing massive.
Quote, I think we saved the damn town, to put it bluntly, Myers said. I'm a humble man, but I feel comfortable saying that. Asked what it means to him to see his community come together to save itself, Myers said, quote, if I had not sweated out all of my water, I think I would cry just thinking about it.
If I wasn't completely dehydrated from all of the fucking heat and work that I just did. Jesus. Wow. I mean, the kinds of distances that you're talking about to the fires and the kinds of size of the fire and the heat. Oh my God.
If you've never been around a wildfire, a forest fire, not a grass fire, like an actual wildfire like we're talking about here, 100 yards, you can feel the heat at 100 yards.
Oh yeah.
It's enough to make you not want to be any closer.
It'll actually at that range. I know when I was in North Carolina and we were working on trying to make fire lines and stuff, I got a tan from the infrared heat from that distance. And we were probably 350, 400 yards in front of it.
No, but yes.
So this is way, way less than, oh my God.
That is, you know, people say, oh, but without government, who would blah, 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 blah. Well, there you go.
You do it your damn self.
I've used this quote for 5 or 6 years now. I've said it multiple times. I've said it on podcasts before. I've written it thousands of times, typed it hundreds of times. There is nothing that the government does or claims to do that we, through individual or communal voluntary action, cannot do for ourselves.
And do better.
Often better.
And cheaper.
And
cheaper, more efficiently. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, look at this. This is all volunteers. This is people who just live in this community who went, holy shit, something needs to be done, and government cannot do it. They are also unwilling because they have the capability, but they're not going to deploy the resources.
Nope.
So because they won't, someone needs to, and it's up to us. So let's do this. And being on a bulldozer as it catches fire occasionally.
From the trees falling around it.
Yeah. Like
that's some pucker. That's some pucker.
Ooh, that actually, to be honest, that sounds really exciting, and I'd probably have the time of my life. But I'm also an insane adrenaline junkie, so it's
you would never have to buy a drink in that town again.
No. I mean, it really would. It would probably be a fucking blast for me. I would enjoy every minute of doing that, but it's still really scary. And the fact that it came down to just a bunch of farmers going, well, I have a bunch, I have access to water way back, 50 miles that way.
Yeah.
I can get water on my property. So I'm going to fill these tanks and haul them in, and we're going to use it to try and spray water, and we're going to make a fire line, and we're going to do what we can. And we might still lose and have to evacuate, but God damn it, we're still going to try.
We're not going down without a fucking fight.
And they pull it off.
They pull it up. They save the town. 9,000 people evacuated. They saved the town.
That's not a super small town. That's not like a tiny little village. That's a decent sized town. And they saved it.
Big enough to have a regular fire department. right? Because they had a 13-man fire department and then 33 volunteers. So they have enough people that have an actual fire department.
Yeah, professional fire department where that's literally their job. That is what they do.
Right.
So.
And it still wasn't big enough for this, and so the community had to band together. I mean, that's the thing you got to remember is that when push comes to shove, when everything hits the fan, all the chips are down, government will turn and run. And it's just up to you. I mean, look at the fall of Rome.
There's not necessarily turn and run. I don't want to say that they're going to run, but the government will always protect its economic sources. It will always protect its economic sources. And the more people you have in a given area, the more government you'll have in a given area, right? So like San Francisco, right? I'm near San Francisco. I'm like 35 miles out from it. Lots and lots and lots and lots of government in San Francisco. But as you go out from San Francisco, you get less government, you get less police, less federal authorities, and if I go to cross the river, which is Sacramento County, there's even less police out there than there is here in Contra Costa County. It's because there's less people. So there's less economic incentive for there to be government. Like the government's not going to spend millions of dollars and tons of resources to protect a 9,000 person town.
Exactly. And that's what I was getting at is like, the overall apparatus has the ability to send more than enough people and resources to that given location to save that town. But they won't because it's too expensive and it comes down to cold, hard math. And they go, this just isn't worth it for us. So it ends up to you constantly. And look at the fall of Rome, right? Like, remember the official regarded historical fall of Rome is the moment where the Senate met because Rome was being invaded. Rome itself, the city, was being assaulted. And they came out, and the senators came out to the steps of the Senate and told the crowd gathered, we cannot protect you. Save yourselves.
Yeah. No.
And that is regarded as the end of Rome because in that moment, Rome shattered. And that was it. And any illusion that people still had of Rome being a thing was dead. Where it gets interesting is like what we're seeing now constantly with these hurricanes and the fires and tornadoes and everything else is we're seeing that what happened after Rome pulled out of Britain. Because after Rome pulled out of Britain, a lot of people still lived as if Rome existed. As if it was still a thing. Like people largely still did the jobs that had been assigned to them by Rome, even though Rome had pulled off of the island of Britain entirely and no longer cared. They still tended to operate that way. People still did those jobs. There was still a little bit of that government left and people still had a little bit of faith. But steadily they saw increasingly that Rome wasn't protecting them, that when people invaded, when natural disasters happened, when these things occurred, no one was coming to help them except their neighbors. And so the belief in Rome died steadily over a couple hundred years. And I think that's kind of where we're at. Like the fall of, we're almost at the fall of Rome.
Oh, it's definitely, it's teetering.
Yeah,
the pillars are starting to tumble.
So, yeah, we're starting to see that collapse where pretty soon they're going to say, well, we can't help you, save yourselves.
Yeah. All right. You guys got anything else? No?
Oh, I got nothing.
No, nothing to add. Make sure that you check out Inked Anarchist, Hootenanny Roundup, because it's a cool page and it's funny sometimes, occasionally, especially when I have to respond to filthy fucking status and cops.
When you guys actually post.
Well, I haven't been posting. I haven't had any good stuff that I can post that won't get the page banned. That's
the long and short of it.
Yeah, it's this delicate dance. But that's pretty cool. Also, make sure that if you want beard products, you check out thebeardstruggle.com. Use code InkedAnarchist15, get 15% off of your entire order just because you used my code. Isn't that cool? Their stuff is awesome. I highly recommend Odin's Virtue is a scent. In my opinion, it is one of their best. It is fantastic. Their shampoo and conditioner combination is not terribly expensive with the 15% off, and it works lovely. How do you think I get this luscious mane? So, Check it out. Use the code.
Withholding my comment on that one. I know who's in the other room. You can tell her I said that too. It'll make her blush.
There may be other forms of conditioner involved as well, but that's not important. What's important is that particular beard washing conditioner worked very, very well.
That's why when you look right below his lip, you can see it's a little lighter there than the rest of it.
All right. Also, our homies at Poppins
Patches.
Who finally announced that next Friday, which would be the 25th, I think, 25th, that they're finally dropping the Ed and Eddie Boogaloo Boys patch.
Yes, I've been on it since
and I'm excited for that.
Yeah, since he announced that one to me. He's also got I don't think he's announced it, but free preview. The girls from Ed and Eddie.
The Boogaloo Girls, yes.
Yep, he's got that one as well. He's got
the Boogaloo Boys and the Boogaloo Girls. He's got the shirts up on the Poppins Patch website, but doesn't have the patches up yet.
Yep, the patches are coming. Those are definitely coming. I'm working with him on a project for a couple of other patches right now that are going to be freaking awesome. So if you want really awesome, very, very well made and well done morale patches, Poppins patches is the place to go.
Yes. Also, I want to plug Road to Autonomy. That is RTA magazine. That is done by our homie Jackie Kerouac. Interviews, recipes, homestead stuff. Absolutely fantastic. We'll also link that in the description and tag it on the Facebook post of this podcast.
Yes, so, definitely check it out. She's really solid. She's super cool, and the articles are good. So
that is a chill girl for sure. Yeah. All right. On that note, again, there is nothing that the government does or claims to do that we, through communal or individual voluntary action, cannot do for ourselves. This has been episode 10 whatever. Yeah. We'll catch you next time. Peace.
Peace.
Yep.